Your life didn't fall apart because you were weak. It fell apart the moment you stopped choosing yourself. Most people don't realize this. They think their exhaustion means they're failing, that their anxiety means they're broken, that feeling unseen means they somehow lack worth. But the truth is far quieter. Life becomes heavy when you abandon your own needs, your own voice, your own center. Not because you're damaged, but because you've spent too long living for everyone except yourself. We grow up being taught to please, to perform, to fit in, to keep things peaceful on the outside, even when everything inside us is burning. Yet Buddhist wisdom teaches something radically different: to return home to yourself again and again, even when the world pulls you away. And when you make that return, even in the smallest ways, something begins to change. Life stops feeling like a battlefield and starts becoming a path you can actually walk with clarity. In this video, we're going to explore 10 quiet Buddhist lessons that reveal what truly happens when you finally choose yourself. Not from ego, not from selfishness, but from wisdom. And you'll see why the world responds differently the moment you stand with your own truth instead of running from it. Stay with me until the end, because I'll share a soft closing reflection you can carry into your next chapter. Like a small lantern you keep in your pocket, one that gently lights your way when everything feels dark. Lesson 1. The moment you stop self-betrayal. There comes a quiet moment in every person's life when they realize something painful but powerful. Most of the suffering you carry didn't come from the world hurting you. It came from you abandoning yourself. Think about how many times you've said yes when every part of your inner world was whispering no. How many times you agreed to keep the peace while your heart was begging for honesty. How often you pushed through exhaustion, swallowed your truth, or forced a smile just to avoid disappointing someone. Every one of those moments might have looked small from the outside, but inside they created tiny fractures that accumulate. This is the inner split, the quiet war between your mind and your heart. The mind says, be agreeable, be good, don't make anyone uncomfortable. The heart says, but this isn't right for me. This hurts me. And when you choose what the world wants instead of what you know is true, you create internal conflict. In Buddhism, this is called dukkha, the suffering born from living out of alignment with your own nature. It's not punishment. It's the natural heaviness that arises when you walk against yourself. Choosing yourself begins with one surprisingly difficult act: telling yourself the truth. Not the polished version you present to others. Not the version shaped by fear or by pressure. The real truth, the one your soul has been whispering beneath the noise. Sometimes that truth is uncomfortable. Sometimes it disrupts old patterns. Sometimes it asks you to set boundaries you've been avoiding for years. But it is always, without exception, the beginning of freedom. So pause for a moment and breathe. Feel your body soften. Then ask yourself gently, where in my life am I pretending I'm okay when I'm not? Where am I still performing instead of living? Where am I betraying my own needs in the name of keeping harmony? The moment you stop walking against yourself, life doesn't suddenly become perfect, but it does become honest. And everything healing begins from honesty. Lesson 2. Boundaries as an act of compassion. Most people think boundaries are a form of rejection, a pushback, a wall, a sign of distance. But that's a misunderstanding born from years of feeling unsafe to honor our own limits. A wall is built from fear. It shuts the world out, keeps everything at a distance, and blocks connection. A boundary, however, is built from wisdom. It doesn't shut people out. It simply keeps your peace protected. It tells life, I can meet you with openness, but not at the cost of abandoning myself. In Buddhism, this is called wise restraint, part of right effort, samavayama. It means protecting the mind and heart from what drains clarity, compassion, and steadiness. Just as we don't allow harmful foods into the body, we should not allow harmful demands into our lives. Boundaries are not selfish. They are acts of conscious care. They preserve your energy so that what you give comes from love, not depletion. Think about how often you've said yes when you were already exhausted. Think about the times you extended yourself far beyond your emotional or physical capacity, not because you wanted to, but because you were afraid of disappointing someone. At first, overgiving feels noble, but slowly, resentment grows, burnout creeps in. You begin to feel invisible, taken for granted, unheard. This is the quiet suffering that comes from pouring from an empty cup. Choosing yourself means understanding something profound. Every no you speak to what drains you becomes a yes to what truly matters. A yes to your mental clarity. A yes to your rest. A yes to the people and tasks that genuinely align with your heart. When you honor your boundaries, you don't love others less. You love them more honestly, without resentment or fatigue. So here is your gentle practice for this week. Choose one small, loving no. It doesn't have to be dramatic. Decline a commitment that overwhelms you. Ask for space when your energy is low. Pause before saying yes and check if your heart is actually willing. You'll notice something surprising. The moment you protect your peace, life begins to feel lighter. And you realize that boundaries were never about keeping people out. They were about keeping yourself whole. Lesson 3. Quieting the comparison mind. Comparison is one of the quietest thieves of peace. It doesn't shout, it whispers. It doesn't attack. It slowly pulls you out of your own life and places you into someone else's timeline. The moment you compare, you're no longer living your journey, you're observing someone else's, and measuring yourself with a ruler that was never meant for you. Instead of standing in the present moment, you begin drifting into a world of not enough, a world built on illusions and incomplete stories. Buddhism teaches that comparison is a form of tanha craving. The craving to be like someone else, to have what they have, to live at their pace. It's a habit of the mind, a pattern woven from fear, insecurity, and the belief that your worth is fragile. But the truth is simple and liberating. The more you compare, the more you abandon your own path, and the more suffering you create. Not because you lack anything, but because you stop seeing the beauty already alive within you. So instead of asking, "Why am I not them?" ask a far more powerful question. What is my path asking from me right now? Your life is speaking to you in ways you can't hear when your eyes are fixed on someone else's chapter. Their timing isn't your timing. Their blessings aren't your blessings. Their path has nothing to do with the path your soul is quietly shaping beneath your feet. To anchor yourself back into your own life, practice this simple gratitude ritual. Name 3 things unique about your journey today. Not big things, small ones. A lesson you learned the hard way. A moment you grew quietly. A strength you didn't have a year ago. Gratitude shifts your attention from scarcity to sufficiency, from longing to presence. Now pause for a moment and breathe. Ask yourself gently, where has comparison made me blind to my own growth? Where have you ignored the progress you've made because you were too busy watching someone else rise? The moment you choose yourself, your timing, your path, your story, comparison loses its power. And joy returns, not because life becomes perfect, but because you finally begin to see your own journey clearly. Lesson 4. Releasing the need to chase. There is a strange paradox in life. The harder you chase something, the faster it seems to slip away. Whether it's love, success, approval, or certainty, chasing creates tension. A tightness in your chest, a restless pressure in your mind, a feeling that you must keep running or everything will fall apart. This is why desperate effort feels so exhausting. You're not moving towards something. You're moving away from yourself. In Buddhist wisdom, this tension is called grasping, and the antidote is vissagga, letting go. Letting go doesn't mean giving up. It doesn't mean abandoning your dreams or pretending you don't care. It means releasing the desperation, the clutching, The fear-filled grasp that comes from believing your worth depends on an outcome. Non-grasping is a form of inner freedom. The understanding that what is meant for you arrives more naturally when you are steady, not frantic. Think about the moments when you've tried to win approval, forcing yourself to be liked, accepted, or chosen. Think of the times you've chased success so hard that life felt like a race instead of a path. In all those moments, you weren't receiving life. You were wrestling with it. Choosing yourself means stepping out of the chase and into a different posture. Grounded receiving. When you are rooted in your own truth, you don't have to run after anything. You allow life to meet you where you are. Try this simple breath practice right now. On your exhale, imagine releasing everything you've been clinging to. Let the breath carry away the pressure, the force, the fear. On your inhale, gently tell yourself, I allow life to meet me. Feel how different this is. Feel the softness, the openness, the ease. Now ask yourself, with honesty, what am I trying to force that actually needs space? Is it a relationship you're holding too tightly? A dream you're squeezing instead of nurturing? A version of yourself you're trying too hard to become? Life does not bloom from pressure. It blooms from presence. And when you release the chase, you don't lose what you desire. You create the space for it to finally reach you. Lesson 5. Dropping the heavy shoulds. Should is one of the heaviest words we carry. It disguises itself as responsibility, ambition, or maturity. But beneath the surface, it creates a quiet pressure that pulls you away from the life that's actually here. Think of all the shoulds that follow you like shadows. I should be further in my career by now. I should have made my family proud. I should already know my purpose. I should be successful, stable, stronger. These thoughts don't inspire growth. They tighten your chest, speed up your mind, and make the present moment feel like a failure compared to some imaginary ideal. A should is not your truth. It's your fear pretending to be guidance. It's the voice of comparison, guilt, and expectation. Buddhism teaches that suffering comes from clinging to fixed stories about how life must look, instead of meeting reality as it unfolds. When you cling to the story of where you believe you should be, you miss the wisdom of where you are. The present moment becomes something to escape from instead of something to grow within. The shift begins when you trade should for intentions. Instead of forcing life to match a rigid standard, you gently redirect your energy with clarity. I move toward this, but I don't cling to it. This single shift softens the weight on your shoulders. It allows you to work toward your goals without believing your worth depends on achieving them. Intention creates movement. Expectation creates pressure. To feel the difference in your body, try a simple practice. Close your eyes and scan your body slowly from head to toe. Notice where your shoulds hide. Maybe it's a tightness in your jaw when you think about career. Maybe it's pressure in your chest when you think about family expectations. Maybe it's tension in your stomach when you think about success or timing. As you locate these places, breathe deeply into them. With each exhale, imagine loosening the grip of the should. You don't have to chase the life you think you should have. You can step into the life that's here. One breath, one intention, one release at a time. Lesson 6. Self-compassion as real healing. Most people don't realize this, but one of the greatest acts of choosing yourself is learning how to stop abandoning your own pain. We live in a world that teaches us to push through everything, to stay busy, stay productive, stay strong. And in that pressure to be fine, we become experts at hiding our wounds. We distract ourselves with work, with people, with screens, with noise. We numb ourselves with habits that fill the silence. We rush past the moments when our heart is whispering, something here still hurts. But pain doesn't disappear just because you look away from it. It waits. It stores itself inside your body, in your breath, your posture, your chest, your jaw, your stomach. It sits in the background like an unopened letter, one you're afraid to read. And the truth is, ignoring your pain is its own form of self-abandonment. Every time you say, "It doesn't matter," when it actually does. Every time you silence your feelings to appear strong. Every time you pretend your heart is untouched. You walk further away from yourself. Buddhism teaches something radically different. The practice of vipassana, turning toward your suffering with insight instead of running from it. It teaches that pain is not the enemy. Our avoidance is. When you resist pain, it grows sharper. When you suppress it, it becomes heavier. But when you gently turn toward it, something shifts. Pain softens. It becomes less of a threat and more of a messenger, a guide, a signal from the deepest parts of you saying, "Look here. Listen. There is something I am trying to tell you." Imagine your pain not as a monster, but as a child who has been calling your name for years, gently, then urgently, then desperately. That child doesn't want punishment or perfection. It wants presence. It wants compassion. It wants you. Real healing begins when you give yourself what you've long given to others: attention, patience, warmth. So try this simple but powerful practice. Place your hand on your heart. Feel the warmth beneath your palm. Close your eyes. Take a slow inhale. As you exhale, don't push the pain away. Instead, breathe with it. Stay with the feeling you usually avoid. Maybe it's heaviness. Maybe it's a memory. Maybe it's sadness. Maybe it's something you can't fully name. You don't have to fix it. You just have to witness it. In this moment, tell that part of you, "I'm here. I'm listening. I will not abandon you anymore." This alone begins a shift, because your pain never needed you to solve it instantly. It only needed you to stop running. Self-compassion doesn't mean you indulge your wounds or drown in them. It means you stop judging yourself for hurting. You stop shaming yourself for not being over it. You start treating your emotional world with the same tenderness you would offer someone you love. Now, gently ask yourself, which part of me has been asking to be seen for years? Maybe it's the part of you that felt invisible in childhood. Maybe it's the part that held the family together and never asked for help. Maybe it's the part that went through heartbreak silently. Maybe it's the part that still carries the weight of something you never talked about. Whoever it is, that part deserves your compassion, not your dismissal. Healing doesn't happen because time passes. Healing happens because love finally reaches the places where time alone could not. When you choose yourself in this way, when you finally turn toward your pain instead of away from it, you don't just protect your peace, you begin to restore your wholeness. One breath, one moment of honesty, one act of gentleness at a time. Lesson 7. Freedom from the need to please. There comes a time in life when you realize that the reason you feel drained, stretched thin, or quietly resentful isn't because you're unkind or weak. It's because you've spent years living as a performer on a stage you never auditioned for. People-pleasing often begins as a survival strategy. Maybe as a child, you learned that staying quiet kept the peace. Maybe you learned to be agreeable to avoid conflict. Maybe you discovered early on that earning love required earning approval, and what begins as protection slowly settles into a habit, then into an identity. Over time, people-pleasing turns into a silent contract. If I keep everyone happy, maybe I'll finally feel safe, accepted, worthy. But here's the truth: when your peace depends on other people's reactions, you become a prisoner of their expectations. You contort yourself into shapes you were never meant to hold. You mute your opinions, dim your light, swallow your truth, and apologize for simply existing. And each time you do, a small part of you steps further away from yourself. Buddhism speaks directly about this, with the teaching of the worldly winds, the 8 forces that shape human behavior: praise and blame, gain and loss, pleasure and pain, fame and disrepute. Most people chase praise and fear blame, not realizing these winds are unreliable and constantly shifting. When your life is built around pleasing others, You are blown in every direction by these winds. But when you root yourself in your own truth, you step out of the storm. Choosing yourself means something powerful and uncomfortable. Being willing to disappoint others, so you do not continue betraying your own soul. It doesn't mean being cruel. It means being real. It means understanding that not everyone will like your boundaries, your opinions, your decisions, and that is okay. Peace doesn't come from being liked by everyone. Peace comes from being aligned with yourself. Start small. Today, try one honest expression in a safe situation. Say what you actually feel instead of what you think will make others comfortable. It might be something as simple as, "I'm tired and need rest," or "That doesn't feel right for me," or "I actually prefer something different." Notice how your body responds, the relief in your breath, the softening in your chest, the subtle return of your own voice. And now, ask yourself gently, whose approval am I still chasing? And what is it costing my peace? Is it costing you sleep, your boundaries, your authenticity, your joy? When you stop performing for the world and start showing up as your true self, something beautiful happens. The right people stay, the wrong people drift, and you finally begin to breathe in your own life, not the life others scripted for you. Freedom doesn't begin when everyone approves of you. Freedom begins the moment you approve of you. Lesson 8. Standing in your own authority. There is a quiet but painful truth in the human experience. Many of us don't actually make our own decisions. We outsource them, not because we are weak, but because fear convinces us that someone else must know better. We ask for permission. We wait for approval. We look around to see what others are doing before we trust our own voice. And slowly, without noticing, we hand over pieces of our life to people who were never meant to guide our path. Think about how often you've said, "What do you think I should do?" when deep down you already knew the answer. Or how many times you stalled your choices because you feared judgment, blame, or discomfort. Outsourcing your decisions may feel safe, but it comes with a silent cost, the weakening of your inner backbone, the quiet core that holds your confidence, clarity, and purpose. Buddhism teaches a powerful principle called Atadipa. Be a lamp unto yourself. At its heart, this teaching is an invitation to stop looking outward for direction and to start cultivating trust in your own wisdom. Not because others are unwise, but because no one else is living your karma, your lessons, your path. The answers that shape your life are already inside you, waiting to be heard beneath the noise. Standing in your own authority doesn't mean rejecting guidance or isolating yourself. It means this: self-choice is not rebellion, it is maturity. Choosing yourself is not about defying the world, it's about finally aligning with the truth you've been carrying inside you. Inner authority is built the same way physical strength is built through repetition. Every small decision you make from your own authentic place strengthens the muscle of self-trust. So here is your practice for today. Make one small decision based purely on your inner knowing. Don't ask for reassurance. Don't wait for approval. Don't look for signs. Maybe it's choosing rest over productivity. Maybe it's setting a tiny boundary. Maybe it's saying yes to something you've always wanted, or no to something that drains you. Honor the pull inside you, even if your mind doubts it. That one small act becomes a brick in the foundation of your inner authority. Because here's the truth: you're not actually confused. You're not directionless. You're not uncertain about your life as often as you think. What you are is afraid of admitting how much you already know. Fear makes you pretend you need others to decide for you. But wisdom, your wisdom has been whispering all along. So ask yourself quietly, without judgment, where am I pretending I don't know what I truly want? Is it in your relationships, your work, your boundaries, your healing, your dreams? Pretending to be lost is safer than choosing a path, because choosing means taking responsibility for your life. But that responsibility is not a burden, it is liberation. When you stop outsourcing, your decisions, and begin standing in your own authority, something extraordinary happens. Your life begins to reflect you again. Your backbone strengthens, your voice returns, and you start walking a path that finally feels like your own. Lesson 9. Stillness as returning home, not running away. One of the greatest misunderstandings in modern life is the belief that stillness is a form of escape. People assume that sitting quietly, breathing deeply, or turning inward is a way of avoiding responsibilities or hiding from the world. Yet if you look closely, you'll see the opposite is true. Most people are not afraid of noise. They are afraid of silence. They are not running from life. They are running from themselves. Why does silence feel so uncomfortable? Because the mind is addicted to noise. It feeds on stimulation, distraction, and movement. Constant scrolling, constant conversations, constant tasks. When the external world gets quiet, the internal world gets louder. The thoughts you've avoided begin to rise. The feelings you've pushed aside begin to knock. The truths you've ignored begin to whisper. And because of this, your mind convinces you that stillness is dangerous. But what if stillness is not the thing to fear? What if it is the thing you've been longing for without realizing it? In Buddhism, meditation is not described as escaping the world. It is described as returning. Returning to breath, returning to awareness, returning to the part of you that exists beneath the noise. Meditation is like coming back to your original home, the inner place that has always been steady even when life feels chaotic. The Buddha taught that the mind is like a pond. When disturbed, it becomes cloudy and impossible to see through. But when left to rest, it clears, and the truth beneath the surface becomes visible again. This is why stillness matters. It is the only place where you can actually meet yourself without masks, without roles, without performance. You cannot hear your intuition while drowning in notifications. You cannot understand your emotions while burying them under constant stimulation. You cannot discover your path while sprinting through life without pausing to ask where you are going. Stillness is not the absence of life. It is the space where life becomes understandable. Try this simple practice today. For just 3 to 5 minutes, sit quietly with your breath. No phone, no music, no distraction. Feel the inhale rise. Feel the exhale soften. Notice the thoughts that appear. Notice the discomfort that tries to pull you back into movement. Do not fight it. Do not judge it. Just stay. The goal is not to empty your mind. The goal is to stay present with whatever arises, the way you would sit beside a friend who needs you. This tiny practice becomes a doorway back to yourself. If the quiet feels unsettling, that is not a sign that something is wrong. It is a sign that something inside you has been waiting to be acknowledged. A feeling you ignored, a truth you postponed, a memory you didn't know how to face. Silence reveals what speed has been hiding. And facing yourself with compassion is the first real step toward inner peace. So ask yourself, gently, what am I afraid will surface if I actually slow down? Are you afraid of loneliness, of unprocessed pain, of a truth that might change your life, of realizing that you need rest, boundaries, or healing? Slowing down does not create these fears. It only reveals them. And once revealed, they can be softened, understood, and eventually released. Stillness is not running away. It is returning home, returning to clarity, returning to your breath, returning to the version of you that has always existed beneath stress and noise. And the more you return, the more life begins to make sense in a way it never did when you were constantly running. Choosing quiet is choosing yourself, not because silence is comfortable, but because it is honest. And honesty, no matter how soft or slow, is where real transformation begins. Lesson 10. Choosing yourself. Expands, not shrinks, your love. There is a quiet fear many people carry. The fear that choosing themselves will make them selfish, distant, or less loving. It feels almost unnatural to put your needs first after years of being the one who gives, supports, sacrifices, and stays strong. But the truth is gentle and powerful. When you are rooted in genuine self-respect, your love for others does not shrink. It becomes cleaner, steadier, freer. Most people don't realize how much they give from emptiness. They pour from a tired heart. They say yes while silently breaking inside. They offer care while neglecting their own wounds. They stretch themselves thin, hoping to keep everyone happy, safe, and close. And then they wonder why they feel drained, resentful, or invisible. Giving from emptiness is not love. It is survival. It is the attempt to earn belonging through self-erasure. And that kind of giving is unstable because it has no roots. Real love, grounded love, comes from fullness. When you choose yourself first, you refill your own cup. You reconnect with your own center. You learn to say yes with intention and no with clarity. You stop offering more than you actually have. You stop treating exhaustion as generosity. You stop confusing self-abandonment with kindness. This is where love begins to shift from something fragile to something powerful. Buddhist wisdom teaches that metta, or loving kindness, must begin with oneself. You cannot offer compassion to the world while withholding it from your own heart. You cannot wish for the happiness of others while denying your own. And you cannot love deeply if you are constantly betraying the very person living your life. You. When you nurture yourself, your love becomes stable because it is no longer fueled by fear, but by presence. Think of self-love not as a wall, but as soil. Soil must be rich, nourished, and cared for before it can grow anything for others. When you water yourself first, you create the conditions for everything around you to flourish. Try this visualization. Sit comfortably and imagine a soft, warm light at the center of your chest. This light is your inner kindness, the part of you that has been waiting quietly beneath stress, guilt, and self-neglect. With every inhale, see that light expand through your chest, softening your breath. With every exhale, let it spread outward, into your arms, your face, your whole body. Feel yourself inside that warmth. Feel how natural it is to be kind to yourself. Now imagine that warmth gently extending beyond you, to your loved ones, to your friends, to the people who have walked your path, to strangers. Notice how the light doesn't shrink as it spreads. It grows. The more it touches others, the brighter it becomes at your center. This is the nature of true love. It expands only after it is grounded within. Now ask yourself honestly, how would my relationships change if I stopped abandoning myself inside them? Would you communicate more clearly? Would you give with less resentment and more sincerity? Would you choose partners, friendships, and connections that honor your truth? Would you stop tolerating what wounds you? Would your love finally feel peaceful instead of exhausting? Choosing yourself does not isolate you. It liberates you. It frees you to love without fear, without desperation, without losing yourself in the process. When you stand in self-respect, every part of your love becomes cleaner. You no longer give to prove your worth. You give because you have enough inside you to share. And that kind of love, grounded, balanced, full, is the kind of love that lasts. Closing reflection. Choosing yourself as a spiritual practice. As we reach the end of this journey, remember that choosing yourself is not an act of separation. It is an act of returning to the part of you that has been waiting beneath the noise, beneath the pressure, beneath the expectations you've carried for years. You're not choosing yourself instead of the world. You're choosing yourself so you can finally meet the world from a place of wholeness. When you choose yourself, you stop practicing the quiet habit of self-betrayal. You stop saying yes when your heart is begging for rest. You stop performing versions of yourself to please or impress others. You begin to protect your peace, not with rigidity, but with clarity. You let go of the heavy patterns that once kept you exhausted, the chasing, the comparing, the overgiving that left no space for your own breath. And slowly, you find your way back to stillness. Not the stillness of escape, but the stillness that allows your mind to unclench and your heart to finally speak. You return to authentic love, love that flows from fullness, not emptiness. Love that is rooted, steady, generous. Love that you offer to yourself first, so it can move outward without breaking you. Let this truth settle softly into you. You don't have to fix your entire life tonight. You only have to stop walking against yourself. The moment you stop pushing yourself away, clarity begins to rise. The moment you breathe with your truth instead of running from it, the path becomes lighter. Healing doesn't demand perfection. It asks only for presence. So maybe today, choose one small way to stand with yourself. Say no once. Rest once. Tell yourself the truth once. The smallest act of self-loyalty becomes the beginning of transformation. And those small beginnings ripple through your entire life. If this message helped you breathe a little softer, you're welcome to stay, to subscribe, or to quietly share it with someone who is still learning to choose themselves too. May you walk gently with your own heart. May you return to yourself again and again. And may each choice you make become a doorway back to your wholeness.